I'm in the midst of revamping my website, and because of this, I was very curious to check out websites of my peers, artists and just overall content creators. But here's the surprising thing, and actually quite alarming. Most of them don't have their own websites. And I was shocked to learn this because it is truly important for any artist to have their own website. And because of that, I figured it would be beneficial to highlight the reasons why someone should have their own website. And by the way, as far as website design goes from start to finish, I have been doing a series of tutorials that I've linked to down below, which you can follow along, my journey, so that way you can apply it to your journey. But let's talk about why it is important to have your own website as an artist. Number one, ownership and control. When you own your website, you own all of that content and you are not restricted by platforms, right? How they present something versus how you would want to present it. And especially since the platforms are constantly changing with what they do and stuff like that. However you want to best highlight your content, you can do so. Likewise, oftentimes, they have their terms of services, and so sometimes you might want to post something, and for whatever reason, you might not be able to, right? It gets taken down and all that stuff. So to gain visibility and not be subject to the algorithm, have your own website and control your own destiny in that way. Number two, professionalism, right? It shows anyone that you're an actual professional and you care about your career. It showcases your portfolio in a simple way. People can glean who you are versus your social media presence. Like, it's great, but it's also filtered through maybe some of the personal stuff, or even if you have just a professional page, it still can be a little bit cluttered. Whereas on a website, it's a lot easier to kind of navigate if done right. And to that point, your portfolio is showcased there. You can put in your sizzle reel, right? And if you do multiple things, like let's say my friend Andrew Guy, he can have a hosting reel, he can have an acting reel, all that good stuff. VFX artists have different reels. Some have wireframes, compositioning, lighting, all that stuff, right? So you can highlight all the things that you do in a very compelling way, and people can see, what you've done. If you're a cinematographer, you can have stills, all that stuff, right? Music, you can feature the top songs you've created. The next is your brand identity. Right? So as we're talking about all these things, you can start to establish, who you are. When we talk about these social media platforms, again, you're limited, how the platform functions. Whereas on your website, you have complete control over the look, the branding, what goes where. And so you can start to establish your presence, how you would like it to perceived, right? So that's very important. Fifth, it's a one-stop shop, right? Where it has all the information about you. It has your portfolio. It has your bio. It has contact information, how to hire you, all the stuff that's very important that might get lost due to how social media platforms, operate. So by having it as a hub here, boom, it just makes it simpler. And you can, in fact, direct people just to that website. And as mentioned, you have control over that. So now that becomes your hub. And if they want to go on your social media, they can get through that, but you have just one place to be able to direct them to. The next advantage is e-commerce. Especially if you're selling your art, or perhaps, you have some merchandise, then this is a perfect way to be able to do that versus social media sites. I know some of them do offer the ability to sell things, but you have to do it based on their restrictions. Whereas here, you have that control. So, if you sell your own paintings, if you sell your own music, Or if you are someone like me that sells coaching services, like any of this stuff, you dictate how it operates, and you're not giving away a percentage fee. Of course, like through the checkout service, you have to pay a certain fee usually, but it's not as high as, if you're doing it through the social media platforms. And again, you have just much more control of how it all operates. Seventh is a wonderful marketing and promotional tool. You can integrate your social media links, and not only that, you can have a newsletter subscription service with it where people sign up, and so now you have their contact information more directly, right? This is, as mentioned, this is your hub, and so you have that ability to have more direct interactions of how you would like to have that interaction through this, right? And so it's truly wonderful in that way. And, you can feature, like if you're coming out with a book, right? You can design the website so all of a sudden that's front and center for everyone to see, so they know, boom, that your book is available, how they can get it, all that stuff, as opposed to, on a social media platform, then they would have to like click something or whatever else, and it just becomes clunky. Right here, it can be a lot smoother. So it's combining that e-commerce along with the promotional aspect. 8, you get wonderful analytics. Sure, social media platforms offer that, but here, you can truly see the behaviors that dictate your audience, right? And it's your data. You can structure it in any certain way, right? So it's not just based on like what they're presenting to you. You can drive the data to look for whatever you need. So it becomes much more beneficial and cleaner that way. And you have ownership over that data, unlike with the rest of it. Because again, these social media platforms can change, and all of a sudden, the data that you were looking at, all of a sudden they might not want to show it to you for whatever reason. It's at their whim. Number 9, this kind of speaks to the professionalism aspect, but furthermore, it gives you credibility, right? So a well-designed website showcases who you are and just says to people that you are a professional, you care about your craft, and you are investing in yourself. Building a website, it's kind of like a weird thing where it's almost expected, right? And so if you don't have one, you don't seem credible. And at the same time, it does cost money, right? Not necessarily a lot. And nowadays, it can be so much cheaper, faster, better. But all the same, it shows that you are putting in that effort to make sure that you have it. So you're essentially meeting that bare expectation, right? Like that's the world we sort of live in. And that's why it gives you that credibility. And lastly, it's just a long-term investment, right? As you grow, you want to really have ownership over everything that you do. And as we know, you can have a big following on one social media platform, but maybe it doesn't translate to another. And as these platforms are constantly evolving and one, grows and one dies, one starts up, you'd much rather be filtering them through your website overall, because then no matter what pops up, that's still your hub. And that's where they're going mostly for your stuff versus having to rely on these social media platforms. I'm not saying social media isn't great. Obviously, I utilize it, but it's just so much more beneficial when you are in control of your own destiny versus these other social media websites. So for all those reasons, that is why all artists should have their own websites. Did I omit any reasons? I'm sure there's plenty that I could have touched upon, but these are the main ones as I see them. But comment down below any ones that I may have missed. Would love to hear from you and would love to know how you're thinking about it. As mentioned, I'm putting out a series of how to go from start to finish in website creation. That can be from scratch, or if you're like me, revamping a site. So I've linked to that in the description box for you to check out. Thank you so much, as always, and best of luck with your website. And I hope to see you next time.